This is the Bar Steward's Enquiry.
Right? You're talking absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
In what way?
You were an underachiever in life. I saved your bacon one time. You were gone.
You handled that well. I couldn't save you. But you did the right thing.
But that's why you don't know anything about racing, John.
I didn't say I do.
Right?
I'm saying that...
What have you contributed to racing? You're one of these take-out merchants. Take out all you can.
And a very good evening, everyone. It's the Bar Stewards Inquiry. Yes, we're back. It's the Dante preview, one of our favourite meetings for the year, usually one that we get right. Let's hope so. Anyway, we need a decent run of form after our last few weeks. But to get things right over this next 3 days at York, we've got a good team to go through things here. We've got a former Naps champion in the form of Andy Richmond and Mr. John Leng and Nick Davis. Chaps, good evening. How are we?
Good evening. Good evening.
Well, two former Naps champions, actually, Jack.
Yeah, I know. You're understated.
Actually, Jack, I was a double Naps champion.
I
One
did
on the
think-
flat, one over the jumps.
We're not asked about the sticks anymore, Andy. We'll stick you, but that's the thing with you. You can do it on the flat as well, and that's why
exactly.
why
Dual
we love it.
purpose.
Exactly that. So we've got a lot to go through. As always, our three best from the next 3 days, and then we'll go through the TV action from York through Wednesday to Friday as well. Seeing as we've got Mr. Dual Naps champion Andy Richmond with us, I'm going to go to him first, please, for your third best.
Try and keep it relatively simple. Look at one race, at least we've got the decks for, which is obviously on Wednesday. And I'm going to go to the 418 at York, unusually for me, which is a 3-year-old handicap. And the Andrew Balding horse, Gallant, who's had a couple of runs this year, ran a really nice race at Newmarket last time out when he was 4th of 10. Seemed to have come on from his first run, which they'd given him on the all-weather in March, ran off a mark of 85 with Oshin on, and it was his handicap debut. I think he was the one that really shaped better than the bare result there. He was certainly the only one on a day when paid to be on the front end, that he was the only one to make any impact from off the pace. He certainly wasn't given a particularly hard race, shall we say. The race has already been, the form's already been franked by the third winning next time out Invictus Gold. The second, Bob Marley, I think the win races, didn't run particularly well last time out, but there's another, it looked a nice race, rode a nice race. I say he's the only one who made any impression from the back of the field. I think Gallant, I think he's around a 9-2, 5-1 chance.
Andy, 2 rule books coming out. We got 4-1 general from what I can see.
Oh, right. It's been backed already from when I last looked about 2 hours ago.
Has seen a bit of money from what looks of things today, but dropped £1 for that as well, which looks generous.
Yeah.
Good start from Andy Richmond in the 418 there with Gallant. Right, Nick Davis, you can go next for us, please.
Well, it's a bit ironic. It's my first 3-year-old bet, and I'm opposing Andy in the same race.
Bloody hell, what's going on here?
Hello.
I like the Ed Walker, Tom Marquand thing, Red Sand. I was very impressed with its effort when it beat Chriswood 1 last time out, and they punted the Chriswood 1 right in. It went off 5-4. Red Sand wasn't really sort of weak, but it wasn't fancied in the market. It came on for a ton for its first run last year. I think it's got the run style here, and it's got the draw. I think it could get easily 5. Tatty Boogie will go along. I like him up with the pace at York, and this one showed an admirable attitude last time out when being taken on, sought out really well and stuck its neck out, and that's the kind of attitude I like, and it's twice the price of the favourite. So it's the Marquand Walker Red Sand I'm going to go for.
Yes, very good, Nick. Around the 7-1 mark at the minute. Gosh, we've got about 30 races to go at, and we've already had a clash.
Forecast.
Yeah, and a Nick Davis 3-year-old pre-Epsom. That feels noteworthy. Red Sand for Nick. John Leng, it better not be the 418 at York, please.
No, we're going. We're taking a meandering little trip outside of York, and we're making our way to Northgate Lodge. And we're paying a visit to the miserable little ginger twat who was double-handed in this, but he has chosen to run stress-free ahead of Creative, who was a edge bet last time and would have won if he'd getting away.
Last time out, edge
would have come here seriously fancy, and I think they've chosen to run stress-free is hugely significant. Now, I think this horse hasn't quite had the rub over 10 furlongs of late, because you take a look at his record and you think He's just handicapped up to his best. There's been legitimate, niggly little excuses over 10 just about every time he's run. And I think this could pan out perfect for him. The one try at 12 up to press, where he ran in the November Handicap, he looked a non-steer, but that was absolutely attritional. I'm not holding that against him. I think Tudor, if he's back fit, can ride this one with a bit of Spencer-esque panache. Sneak into it, pounce inside the last furlong. It's the weakest looking Jorvik I can remember in a long while. A lot less competitive than the 10 furlong 8 this lad's been playing his trading. I did notice the shirt had the Reverend in it, might be best caught fresh. That could possibly be a danger, but that's never raced on quicker than good to soft, so chances are he'd take that out anywhere. So yeah, stress-free, happy days. Get stuck in, everyone.
Good stuff. Kicking us off the 2:10 Wednesday for John. Stress-free. We'll come on to that race a little bit later on. I shall finish off the round in the 3:45 on Wednesday. All Wednesday's good stuff, and I'm going in the Musidora. And I will be with a horse that I know John likes, and possibly others too, and that's the Rafe Ralph Smokin'. 2 for 2 as a juvenile. One on pretty attritional ground on debut at Nottingham, and then got the job done in the Montrose at Newmarket, which usually works out to be a decent race. The second ran pretty well in the Cheshire Oaks last week and was second in that too, so form's got a little bit of substance. Rafe Ralph said they picked this race because it would be the only one that she hasn't got a penalty in amongst the other trials, so I think that's a positive sign. This often does, given we spoke about the Oaks picture on the sermon, this could produce probably a likely Oaks candidate, and I think she could well be one. I guess the quicker ground is the question mark with her, given that both of her wins have come on sort of heavy and soft, but I don't see anything in the pedigree to suggest that she won't handle it. You'll usually get the track right there on this meeting, so I've got no concerns there at all. As of the competitors, that did have Serenity Prayer put in as the anti-post favourite, which I think was completely the wrong price. Has eased a bit now, but that one well backed on debut at Newbury, but the second of Big Pete's got beaten off 79 in a handicap next time out. The third of Gosden's got thumped in the Cheshire Oaks, so I don't think there's much substance to that form. They've put Whirl in of Aidan O'Brien, who's obviously swept up every classic trial known to man so far, so I'm a little bit wary of that, but I do like this Smokin'. I think she's a viable Oaks contender, and I know John certainly thinks so. So I think hopefully she'll have wintered well, and she should be good enough to win here. So we're looking at around the 3-1 mark, and I'd probably have her a point shorter. So, right, quickly on to round 2. I'm going to go to you, please, Nick Davis.
We're going to the second race at York on the opening day. This is mainly job related. I mean, stalls are on the far side again, and you'd be very hard pressed to back anything last year that was drawn in double figure numbers. But yet the market has got 2 tribes, Change Sing and Holcombe Bay, and as market leaders, they're respectively drawn 12, 15 and 16. This makes it a much bet race. I'm going with We Never Stop, who did a favour for Lee last time out at Newcastle. He's got the run style, he's got the draw, he's in the peak of his form. Obviously, there's dangers in there, but with the top of the market all drawn high, of course, York could have done a red car and done some work this season. But on what we know, you want to be low at York, and I think We Never Stop at a best price is 10s, but I suppose Jack will cut me back. What are you going?
You can have the 10s. You can have the 10s, Nick.
That's only a red card because they want to give the people in the houses a better view of the racing.
It's failed, actually, as will be proven now Duran Fentiman's back. Because he's been thoroughly briefed that he should still go to the far rail. So watch red car with interest next meeting.
Tipping itself there from John.
Have they still got that cutaway in, John?
They put a running rail in on the far side. As a result, the jockeys haven't ventured over there.
No one's gone there.
Well, 2 have been over there and have absolutely outran their odds by miles, which shows they haven't really been watching. Been having a natter to a certain northern jockey who might just blow things apart at the next regular meeting.
It's named after a famous boxer, is that what
Yes,
the one you mean?
yes, and a villain in Barbarella.
There you go. You came here for the Dante preview and you got some red card track tips as well. So you're well stocked this week from us.
So if he's drawn low, then he might be staying that side.
He might just be going that side if he's drawn 18, Andy. So.
Oh, right, okay, fair enough.
Good stuff indeed. Right, we never stopped, as Nick pointed out. This was a Lee bet last time out, so to continue the good form. Right, John Leng, please. No red car for you, so it'd be York. Have you got for us for your 2-pointer?
Well, unbelievably, I'm actually sticking with the Dante, mate.
That's unlucky.
Despite loads of wonderful opportunities elsewhere. And I'm going to what is usually an informative novice event on Friday, the 4:55. And this horse is actually one of my 5 to follow, Noble Horizon. I've been waiting for this one getting unleashed for, well, most of the season, to be honest. I thought he might have been ready a bit earlier than this, but anyway, D-Day's upon us, and I thought he looked a real good quality animal at Kempton on debut. He was far from fit, he was really slack. He was carrying stacks of condition. He was green, he was garmless virgin pre-race, really not closed up at all. He looked like he needed a race just to wake him up. This is a lovely race for him to come back in here. He's receiving weight for some previous winners, but that'll make sure we get a price. I think this could be between the 6 and 7 to 1 mark against some of these if they all turn up. And I think this is a proper good bet at that kind of price.
John, never mind sponsoring Thirst. This could be the Bar Stewards 5 to follow maiden, because we've got one of yours in here, one of mine, and one of Quentin's, and they're all from the shirt. So which one's going to run? Hopefully it's yours.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
Hopefully one of us will get that one right. And you say this often tends to be a pretty informative maiden. Lead Artist won it last year, Mustabshire the year before. So let's hope. So you said about the 6-7 to 1 mark is kind of what you're hoping for.
I think if what appear to be the fancied ones stand the ground, I think that's what we could be looking at, yeah.
Yeah, looks a decent maiden. All right, 3:13. I'm sticking on Friday's card, and I'm in the Michael Seeley, the 1 mile listed race for the fillies that I know a lot of you probably won't be touching, but I shall be today. And I'm with the Roger Vegetables, Gullia here. I thought this got an absolute stones from Sill last time out, who does look to be retaining the ride. Should have won, was a winner in that race in all but name, really. Just found way too much traffic and only went down by a short head, narrowest to margins. And I think that was a good maiden. I think winner could probably be listed class. Don't mind the third of Beckett's at all. So I don't think that's bad form whatsoever. And she looks as if she's going to be an intended runner here. I think you're getting a bit of a price because she's still a maiden, even having had 2 races and not got over the line yet. But I think she's been better value for that so far. And if you look at top of the market, Glittering Surf, yes, impressive enough winner on the all-weather last time out. Same with Kontiki, but this is kind of, early spring all-weather form. And I value Gullia's run at Ascot over those 2. And I think this could shape up to be a pretty high-class filly. They've got her in the Coronation, and that could be a viable target if she goes and wins here. So let's hope Sill's got his brain going on Friday. Want to see a little bit more of a prominent ride on this one. But
interesting stat here for you, Jack.
Go on, John.
Sill has never, ever ridden a bad race on the same horse twice. And I researched that entirely by hand earlier this week, checking out everything he's ever ridden. And if you believe that, you'll believe I've got a bridge to sell you.
Well, no. Well, I believe it coming from you, and I think he'd be keen to get this one right, to be honest with you.
I would agree. He rarely makes the same mistake twice.
Yeah, I hold him in higher regard than I do a lot of these jockeys. Excellent. So, yeah, Gullia for me, with John's Sill stat to back that up at around the 4 to 1 mark in the Michael Seeley. Andy Richmond, please, could you close off the 2-point round for us?
Right, Thursday, the 5:25, unbelievably, it's another 3-year-old handicap, but it's the Rafe Ralph horse, Anniversary. Really impressed with this horse last year, certainly in his last race, where he did get beaten by many men who were reopposes. But I just think this horse is just going to be a better 3-year-old. That was 10 furlongs on his last trip at Newmarket. He got picked off late on by many men who actually franked that form by winning next time out. Rafe Ralph has been doing well with his 3-year-old handicappers. He's had 5 from 21 this year so far. They really seem to be running into form lately. He's had horses like Consolidation One, Lake Vivian, who was really impressive at Chester. He's had a couple of others, Brave Mission, who's a surefire winner next time out, and Cape Breton, who was second at Ascot on Saturday as well. He's also had some big price ones like Priapos. Does well with this group. I think Anniversary. I think ride the thing positively as he was ridden last time out at Newmarket. I think he's absolutely chucked in off this mark of, what's he off,
93.
I think he's miles better than 93 horse. I think he'll reverse the form with Many Men. He just need the run, but I'd be happy to take something like 3-1, 7-2, 4-1 around that sort of mark. I just think he's a better horse than these. Anniversary, 5.25, last race on Thursday.
Very good. Often an informative handicap, this one. And as you say, not nice progressive 3-year-olds there to go at. And gelded over the winter. Looks like he could be a nice stayer in the making. For the Rafe Ralph team.
Could be an early Melrose shout.
Yeah, as if we need another one of them. But you're right. Could be a sighter.
We're a bigger Melrose roster than the fucking WWF, haven't we?
I think we could have the full field, John, eventually, one of these days.
It's not fair.
Excellent.
I tell you.
It is our favourite. It is one of our favourite races.
It is. You think a few of these might end up there, so we should be.
With Ross O'Ryan on, I think he looks. I think he's better than the 90s.
Agreed. Excellent. Right, that's the 2-point round closed off. So we're off to the 3-pointers, the big lucky 15 for the week, that leaves us all in clover. Let's hope one of these days. Nick Davis, I'm going to let you start us off, please.
Well, we're going to the 10 furlong handicap on Friday at York. Now, this one has been on my list, and they finally got it at the right trip. Brioni for King and Ross O'Ryan. That's a massive 20-1.
Cool.
He's been the last one. I mean, they had him in the 12 furlong handicap, the good one at Newmarket, the Rowley Cup, I think it was last. They didn't seem to handle Newmarket, or it was the distance. He was all over the shop. And yet they set him back over the same course, over a mile this time. He was just held up, never got into it, and just looked like one of these horses that just out for a run. He's got some good form. Ideally, I'd like a bit more give, because he was never more impressive than at Ascot when beating Whiskey Pete. But he's got a Goodwood second on his card when he was only nutted out of one of John's horses' approval. So that proves he can handle it. And 20-1 is just absolutely too big. I think I could see him go with single figures if he runs. I mean, there's some that you might want to wait till Wednesday's declaration. I don't know how much it will come in. 20-1 is massive for me. And that's my 3 points going.
I like it, Nick. Difference of opinion with some of these. You've got 20s, Denise and Billy Mountains, and then 8-1 with the Flutter Boys. So might be one to snap up early. Looks an intended runner with Ryan booked. So no, I like that.
Yeah.
Like that very much. And it agreed, looked a bit of a sighter last time out at Newmarket over that trip. So good stuff. Nick Davis with a nice big price there in the 242 at York. Andy Richmond, what's your 3-pointer for us?
Right, we're going to go for the 5.25 on Wednesday. It's an in Dunlop horse, which slightly puts me off, but that's offset by the booking of Ryan Moore, which I think he's rode the horse last time. The horse is Don Simon, I probably would pronounce that. 4-year-old. So I've only ever run one race on turf and ran pretty well on heavy ground at Newmarket. It was at the back end of last year. So a couple of good efforts on the all-weather this year, specifically last time out at Chelmsford when it was really well backed and only got beaten by Steel Tiger, who's run well again since. That was at Chelmsford over 1.6 miles. He might just benefit by coming back a little bit in trip this time out. I think that was possibly just a little bit too far last time out. 12 furlongs looks to be his trip. I think he hit the front a bit too soon last time out as well. He only got beaten just on the nod, basically. Still very unexposed at sort of trips of 1 mile and 1.5 miles. It doesn't look to be anything that's massively ahead of the handicapper in these. I suppose there's horses like Masakila down the bottom and what happens in Vegas, who've been running pretty well, but they don't look ahead of their marks. And I've got a feeling that Don Simon is better than his mark. I think he's around the 9-2, 5-1 mark, and that will do nicely.
Yep, you can certainly have the 92, Andy. Don Simon out of the mare Snow Fairy, so a family that the trainer knows very well, and produced a couple of nice horses. So yeah, this should be better than 80, really, shouldn't it? So good stuff. All right, John Leng, I'm going to come to you, please, before I'll round off things.
I'm going with a bit of red calf form, believe it or not. In the old days, red calf form used to hold up really well, and then of late, since they started downgrading prize money and class of racing, it's generally a load of shit. But I think this might not be totally shit.
Like us.
To coin a phrase, exactly. The horse in question runs on Friday in the 242, the 10 furlong handicap, and that is Romeo of Adrian Cately's. And this one caused a bit of a stir first run back for Cately. He's a Nick Bradley purchase, been running in France, and he comes over here, been running exclusively on heavy ground, and ran on good to firm against a horse called Obito that I know for a fact the Oakmere's think he's all right. And he absolutely blew a hole in this Obito. And the thing is, he just looks absolutely tailor-made for another quarter mile, which he's getting here. I think this is a step up in trip that Bradley's probably bought him for. I don't think 90 is anything like this horse's final mark.
He's in the Hambleton as well, isn't he?
Yeah, this is the one I want him to run in, the 10 furlong. There's going to be massive improvement at 10 for me. I can say this horse finishing up between 105 and 110 at 10 furlongs.
Well, we like that. Pretty lightly raced.
He's 14 to 1, honestly. I would make this a play at anything down to 5 to 1 in this race.
Wowzers. Some confidence there from John for the ever so likeable Nick Bradley operation, but they get it right occasionally, and this looks like it could be a bit of a snip for that price based on this profile. So
we've got another head-to-head there, haven't we? Another clash.
Yeah, we're doing well with those today. Never an issue in strength in numbers, so no, we like that one indeed. Right, I'm going to finish us off in probably the showpiece, what the meeting's named after, in the Dante, the 345. Don't think John will be surprised where I'm going here, but I'm sticking to my guns with the Rafe Ralph trained Pride of Arras here, who I've mentioned on pods prior, who I think made a very, very good impression indeed, certainly to me, and I know a few others in its Sandown Maiden last summer. Go and watch that race back. I think it looked totally clueless a couple of furlongs out, and then just really got the hang of things, powered up the hill there at Sandown, and stayed on to lovely effect. I mean, the form's not been spectacular. The runner-ups rated it's rated 90. The third's an okay horse, but I think the manner of the victory, given he did so much wrong in the early stage of the race, was pretty special. Off the track for the remainder of the season, I don't think by design, by all account, but I think they've had this race in mind for quite some time. My one quip with this would be the ground. I think, being a Nube, they do tend to like to get a bit of dig in the ground, and it's going to be on the quick side here. We know York do a good job. I think it's a fair track, and I think this could be quite good indeed. And I'd urge listeners as well, whilst I'm at it, well, if you see this declared tomorrow, which hopefully it will be, still waiting on a message from Rafe Ralph, so if you're listening, please do respond. But you're getting a bullseye for the Derby, and I think with the Derby picture being so unclear, we've seen in recent years that Dante's put up some excellent winners. I mean, Desert Crown obviously won this a couple of years ago, went on to glory. Economics last year, he didn't go to the Derby, but went on to be a Group 1 winner. It tends to be the premier trial these days, in my opinion. And I think this is an open race. The Lion in Winter obviously is the sort of sexy profile, but again, been off for a long old time. Tricky horse to train, so we hear. Is he going to be cherry ripe for this? I'm not 100% sure. I think they might possibly leave a little bit on him to work with for Epsom. Alpine Trail has kind of had his own way out in front in his sort of form so far. Wimbledon Hawkeye seems pretty highly tried at this point. A couple of lurkers in behind there, but I think Pride of Arras has got absolutely stacks of potential, and I think it could be a very smart horse indeed. So I'm having a pretty confident one. I'm going to give myself 12 to 1 here, which you can get with 365 and Ladbrokes. Let's hope he's declared tomorrow. Otherwise, forget everything I've just said. But there you go.
The won that Sandown. They won that in 2021 with Westow as well. He turned out to be a decent horse. And just looking at O'Brien's I just had a quick look at some stats or trainer stats for the May meeting for the last 10 years at York. He's only 2 from 30, Mr. O'Brien, which is way down. The leading trainers at this meeting have been our favourite slow-talking posh person, John Gosden.
They seem to do all right here, don't they, from
The
memory?
shirt, Andrew Baldwin's also. They're the ones with decent above expectation figures. The ones to avoid have been Richard Fahey, who's had 13 winners from 202 runners. Kevin Ryan's never done that well at this meeting. 9 from 146, both below expectations of the market.
No, some good stats there from Andy, and like you think, I think you probably find this meeting is just a lot more competitive than probably certainly Chester that he mops up, and with his kind of second raters and Lingfield obviously at the weekends. Good stuff, and as I said, confident selection for me. I'd probably at this point I've backed him anti-post, but not at much better prices than this, so I'd hang on until tomorrow. Wait until he's declared, and obviously the shit munchers will get this at some point on Wednesday, so all the prices will be gone by then.
Have you backed him for the Derby, Jack?
Oh yes, absolutely. He gets declared tomorrow. I'd have 2 bets, one on him for Thursday, and then a saver on the Derby. And let's hope we can repeat some glory of times gone by at Epsom. All right, that was a very good quick rattle through our best 3. As I said, lots of TV action for us to look at. We're just going to stick to York and hopefully some strong opinions. So we'll kick things off with Wednesday. We've had a bet from John, stress-free, in the Jorvik. So Andy and Nick, any opinions here?
I must admit, I did look at the Reverend with the Haggis record, but I think John mentioned it in his summing up when he was talking about stress-free, that he'd be a little bit worried about the ground with that one. But I do think that it might be one to sort of catch first time out. But I think I'd probably agree with John there. Stress-free looks pretty interesting. They had him entered in a few other races at York as well, but they seem to have chosen this one. So, yeah, I'd probably row in there. But the Reverend is an interesting horse when he does run. He might just need a bit of cut in the ground, though.
No, I'd agree with that.
I thought that the entire front of the market is really improving, and stress-free hasn't raced on good to firm ground yet, has he?
The thing that convinced me about that, Nick, he had creative in as well, and he could have gone with that one.
Yeah.
That has run okay on firm ground.
Yeah, we don't know what the top's like. There's no one of these Osborne ones he's got, might be rated too high. The bottom might have a squeak if he came back to his best with the pieces on in double figure. It might give you a run. It does like it here. It's had a sighter. They've stuck the headgear on, but I wouldn't be strong on anything. But yeah, I can see some non-runners there. I mean, I don't know if the Burke one will go on it. The King one might run well, but it's hardly well handicapped. Max Mayhem, I can't see that. Will that turn up even as usually sort of all weather? Yeah, I don't think it's a deep race.
No, I think the sentiment is it's a bit of a weak renewal. I thought the Burke one, Al Mosher, that being, was interesting given the stable switch, which Charlie Fellows has had a bad week, but having this taken off you for 3 starts, 2 wins, and beating a fag paper in its only, it feels a bit harsh, doesn't it? But some smart all-weather form over the winter, certainly like the win last time out, and 93 could be a bit of a snip potentially, but obviously got to go and prove it on the turf. I think by and large we're looking at a fairly weak renewal of the Jorvik, so we shall skip on to the 242. We've obviously had a bet here from Nick with We Never Stop. These sprint handicaps I tend to swerve, so I'm going to lean on Andy and John in this one, please.
Yeah, I think Nick summed it up with unless they've done some remedial work on the ground, then the 2 that I actually quite liked are Drawn High, and I'm thinking I'd want to see a couple of races before I draw any conclusions, but they would be Holcombe Bay and 2 Tribes, who I thought both ran good races at Newmarket last time out, but from 12 and 15 respectively, I think I can keep my money in my pocket. There is one really well handicapped horse in this race who I think may well win a big handicap this year in Ramazan. He ran second in a couple of big handicaps last year, the Victoria Cup over 7 off 105 and the Great St Wilfrid off 103. He was second in that. He's down to 97 now. He does look dangerously well handicapped. Again, he's from Trap 10 here, but keep an eye on him. I think he's one for your little black book.
Yeah, well, he is for the old scaffolder, who, as you've just told us,
Mm.
doesn't perform very well here. But
Not really. It's one
no.
might be one for later in the year, but if that mark
Yeah.
keeps going down, and they can get him back to some sort of form, might
Yeah.
be
I've
when
always-
they put a little bit of headgear on him.
I've always thought with him kind of stiff 6-7, and this might be a little bit quick for him, possibly.
Yeah,
But,
well, the Victoria Cup was 7, wasn't it? And then the Great from Wilford is a relatively, well, it's not particularly stiff
No.
6, but it's usually well run. But I think, as you say, a stiff 6, bit of headgear on, may be the time to catch our friend Ramazan, who could be very well handicapped soon.
One for the notebook there, possibly.
Mm.
We were rowing in with Nix on the whole. 3:13, the Duke of York. Talking of kind of weakish renewals, this feels a bit of one to me. Knight Raider toward the top of the market. I mean, he's done all his best work over the all-weather and not been very good on the turf at all. The returning Inisherin, who certainly showed flashes of brilliance last year, but kind of disappointed towards the end of his 3-year-old career. What do we make of this one, chaps?
I probably want to be with the top on his record on Good to Firm and his record fresh. He's looked very good until the end of last year, but was that the ground? Was it being too prominent in races where the pace didn't hold up?
Yeah,
They were both in the Haydock sprint, weren't
he's
they?
had the wind up over the winter, which I never know whether that's a positive or a negative, really. But
I looked at this market and thought that on the front of it looked opposable. Elite Status, Inisherin and Knight Raider, you could find a question mark against all of them at the prices. The one I sort of came back to was the balding horse, Flora of Bermuda. Just looked a little bit overpriced, but it wasn't a race I particularly wanted to play in. It was just I thought the front 3 was, you might want to maybe Dutch lay 'em and hope you get a result.
yeah, no obvious, is there? I'd say.
I thought Flora Bermuda, that third on her last run in the champion sprint, the third of 20, was a pretty decent run, to be quite honest with you. If she'd have settled a little bit better, I think she might have finished the race off a little bit better. There's evidence that she might be a bit better with some cut in the ground, but just thought the front end of the market just didn't look that in. There are reasons where they could all blow out.
That was my worry with her. Cut in the ground, she blew out here on Good to Firm, but then she's won here. It's not a York thing; it might be a ground thing.
It was a race with a big question mark against it for me.
Yeah, I think you're right, John. Any thoughts your end?
I think Inisherin is a better horse than Elite Status, according to a couple of fairly solid farmlands. He's got a better overall rating than a typical winner of this, actually. I think he should win, but the price looks right. I don't think I'll be backing him. I might get my straight wet if he went, say, 3 to 130.
I can agree with that. Don't think there's any standout bet at this point. Musidora, 345. I've played my hand in this one. John, I know that's a horse you like, so I'll let you kick things off. Are you with Smoking on Wednesday?
I agree with every word you said, Jack. If we could have been sure of some cut in the ground, I mean, I would absolutely guarantee this travels like an arc winner, you know?
Yeah.
But obviously, we're in a little bit unknown territory. I don't think it'll be a problem myself. And I don't really think the opposition is going to be a problem. See how it pans out.
Yeah, I don't think it's the strongest. Wells won a Group 3 last season at.
The trouble is, I think things are going to be more in favour of Smoking if she gets to Epsom, because he'll have slopped it on like nobody's business for the Friday.
Same with my Dante bet, really.
It's
So
a matter of getting there, and then we're in business. You know, it's getting through your trial, isn't it?
Absolutely that. Andy, Nick, I know you love 3-year-old fillies.
Happy to row in with you here, Jack.
Yeah, Nick, is it our first nope of the season?
Yeah, no, that's a no. Yeah.
And the 418, we've had 2 bets already in this race from both Andy and Nick. So, John, I'll come to you. 7 furlong handicap. Any thoughts here for the 3-year-olds?
If I'd offer up an alternative to selections from my 2 esteemed colleagues,
Get the dry cast in.
I would say Rare Change looks an improved performer this year. Won quite easily at Windsor. And Step Up in Trip 130 rather.
can agree with all those cases. So I think I'll stick the TriCast on, book the flights the next day for me.
Yeah.
Right, we've wrapped through Wednesday. We'll move on to Thursday. Another 5 for us to go through. There's no rest for the wicked. The Lindum, the 210 over the 5 furlongs. A very quick 5, as we know. No real view here from me. American Affair's a horse Nick likes. I know that. You with him?
Well, you've got to wait for see what the draw
Yeah,
does.
hard one to play without, isn't it?
If they're both drawn low, I'll just do a reverse forecast, American and Pilgrim. So those two are on my radar. As I said, American Affair just could end up rated 110 this year, and Pilgrim, I think, it could be rated 106.
Could be a nice Nunthorpe trial, Nick.
Oh, for American Affair, yeah, I think he'll go much higher even. But but you can't if you suddenly get drawn 15, 16, you just waste of time, isn't it?
On last year's evidence, you don't really want to be high, do you? The one I quite like out of that is the top weight, Shagran. I think he could really improve. I think it's not a big step for him to win a listed or a minor group race this year. I think he's better than his handicap marker 101. I think he could step up as well. Again, you couldn't play without knowing the draw.
Absolutely, and I think similar could probably apply to the Hambleton, the next one, the 242. No decks as of yet, as we know, but any entries catch your eye, John? I know you like these kind of races. Anything your end? I know you've got your double entry here. Hopefully, old Romeo doesn't run other than him.
If he ran in this, he'd have a reasonable chance, but I wouldn't be quite as confident as I am on the Friday. I thought La Trinidad and Blowfield both ran lovely comeback runs this year. And I think you can play either of those each way with a bit of confidence in this, because the race will be run to Soton both.
Blue for you, Cruyff Turn. How many Hambletons are they going to rock up in? Blimey, feel like it's just deja vu.
I think they're really good mile races. You want to be up there now. I think Blue for you probably at his age needs it a bit needs a bit of a cut.
Yeah.
You're not giving Mr. King another run, Nick?
Oh,
I didn't like the look of him last time. I think Lee might be right. I'd be interested to see if they put the headgear back on Northern Express now.
Yeah.
Their piece has been left off.
There's a few in this who go around here blindfold.
George Bowie's got one of them from Saturday night.
Ryan Moore was on Talis of Volver earlier on, but he's not. Doesn't seem to be on there now. Gobberton probably won't run. Both Pedro might need a little bit more cut and Newmarket. James McHenry usually comes second or third without winning. About your friend Mursky, John.
He's on a useful mark now, isn't he? He was the one I was going to mention.
He's getting there, and he's coming off a fairly useful prep. I mean, I won't put anybody off backing him.
Yeah.
Big price as well, 25, isn't he?
He was the one I looked at. Do you think they need to get his mark down a little bit more, John? You think sort of 86, 85, 86?
He's maybe on the cusp. He's in that region where a good ride will win a race for him, you know?
Yeah.
Mursky, the moral clipper winner, John.
Oh, don't.
The cards have got to fall right eventually, but I think it's another one really hard to surmise without decks and draws and such. The Middleton, the 313, maybe a slightly more easier contest to tackle, although I do say that in trepidation with it being fillies only. Kalpana's back at the top of the market, obviously a very good 3-year-old toward particularly the back end of last year. Looks like she's going to run. See the Fire, who's operated well here previously. Decent field if a fair few of these turn up. Any views, chaps?
I think there's a right nice bet here. We see the Fire each way against Kalpana.
Yeah?
At 6-1, I think that's a very, very solid each way bet. I don't think Kalpana's necessarily going to like York, and I can't put my finger on the reason why, but I just have a feeling she could blow out here. See the Fire put in a very, very solid performance. I think it was in the Strensel last year.
No, he won it, didn't she?
Yeah.
She won.
So like a filly that can come back here after a like that, you know. I think they do tend to go well here time and time again. And I cannot envisage a situation where she doesn't hit a mark here, whereas I can envisage plenty of scenarios where Kalpana's left wanting. I think this is, for a fillies race, I think this is a fair old bet.
Kalpana's got to give the pen away, which when there's so little between some of these fillies and mares, that can be quite telling. The only thing I'd say was See the Fire, John. Did win very well at the Strensel. To me, I thought the drop back in trip was to her benefit that day, and Might have been reappearance last time out, which is fair enough. She'll come on, but she travelled into it like the winner, and then just didn't seem to find. And I was a little bit like, do we go back to the mile potentially with her? But it could have just been a fitness thing, in fairness. But yeah, I think that's a very fair bet given the course form and the unproven element of
Didn't get
Kalpana.
beaten far last time, Jack. Did
No.
she? I mean, under 2 lengths, first time out. Probably give her a bit of a pass there for that one. I thought she travelled really well into the race.
She did.
Possibly got there a little bit too soon.
Yeah. No.
You've been ultra critical. Although, how many winners have I ridden?
Exactly that. Nick, this has got to be a note from you, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. No, yeah.
Andy, your views?
I think I'd agree with John there because I'm going back to the Strensall last year in that race at that Gordon Richards race at Sandown, and I'd forgotten actually. I just had a quick look actually, and just remembered how well she travelled into it. I'm just quickly watching it back there. It was just a thought occurred to me then that I just thought possibly got there just a little bit too soon, and if you can hang on to her a little bit longer, as you say, you get Mr. Moore here rather than Sheen at the moment. So I think it is a reasonable play each way.
Fair bet against the Fav there, and that could well be a sighter toward something later in the season for her. So we shall find out. And on to the Dante, the 345. I've already played my hand here, so I'd love to hear your views. Hopefully not too opposing.
In principle, I like yours, Jack. I mean, definitely. I think he's got the scope to improve. He looks a mile and a half horse in the making. I like the fact that the yard's in form. I think he'll be strong at the finish. There would be a school of thought here that would say the line in winter's a decent price because he's coming here. He's got everything in the till already, really. He ran in that Acomb Stakes that's working out almost on a sexual level.
You're right.
The rivals have the potential to improve to where he was, but they have to improve a fair old bit. This is the thing. It's an if with Aidan, isn't it? We don't really know. There's no way he wanted that season last season to end at the Acomb.
No,
absolutely no way. No. So we do have doubts. There's doubts about whether this horse is sound enough and all the rest of it. If he comes here in the right sort of form, he could just do a fucking hatchet job on the lot of these and burst every bubble in the race.
Yeah.
Odds on for Epsom, thank you and good night. That's the end of your interest, lads. Have a bet on the Coronation Cup and then fuck off.
Yeah.
That's what we could be looking at. But let's hope we're not, and Pride of Harris does something interesting.
I think that's spot on, John. I mean, to win, I was actually hugely. You were certainly with him, and you put me to the sword as you often do. But I thought over 7, having seen his debut, I thought no chance. Quick ground at York, he'll be found out there, and yeah, completely put me away. But it is just that campaigning, and not in the horse at all. But remember a few years ago, High Definition was kind of the second coming. I backed him for the Derby. He's now, I think he's running over hurdles in New Jersey or something. So there you have it. But he came here off a troubled prep and ran a kind of unfit, sort of staying on third.
He ran a troubled race, didn't he, really?
Yeah, and that was, I hope that's not what happens to this horse. Well, I kind of do because I want Pride of Harris to win, but Aidan's been lukewarm, hasn't he, for a horse that did look so spectacular last year. So remains to be seen. He's the big question
mark. He's been
mark.
a lot cooler than he was over City of Troy, hasn't he?
No best horse I've ever trained for chat, but then they don't own the Stallion, so that's probably answers that question. Yeah. Nick Davis, any thoughts from yourself on the Dante?
I probably agree with John. There's a chance 11 to 8 is a big price. I mean, I wouldn't back it. I might have a forecast with yours, Brian and Winter, Pride of Harris forecast. But this is the trouble these days. I mean, I sound like a right deluded old fart, but the first 25 years I followed racing, about 16 different trainers won the Derby. And it's really, really sort of, to me, it becomes boring when you get sort of domination like we've had over the last 10, 15 years. It's put me off a lot of stakes races, actually.
Which is going to be his best, and that kind of answers the question, doesn't it? Andy, any thoughts from yourself?
It was interesting they've supplemented Alpine Trail. I thought was quite an interesting horse, but there's not an awful lot of juice in the price. And as John's alluded to, that 11 to 8 come whatever time it is on the Thursday, could look a big price. Be interested to see him in the paddock. Another one I liked, and the prices are all over the shop, was Royal Playwright. Interests me as a horse. He didn't get any run at all on the all-weather back in April when he was third of 6. He conceded first run there, had to wait for a gap. Race didn't work out. Don't think he really had his conditions in a couple of races last year. Certainly, ground looked a little bit softer than he would have liked, although he was second in the Royal Lodge, and then he definitely didn't handle the heavy at Doncaster in October in that Futurity. But his first run was pretty impressive, and the prices are all over the place. I'd certainly think that the 16s, if you can get it with Billy Mountains, is very tradable. Just seems out of line. I would have had him nearer where they've got him. Other bookmakers, I wouldn't have had him short as 5s as the Sky Bet mob have, but I think sort of 8s or 9s is probably more reasonable. But again, it could be, it could be all knockout blow, and the line in winter 11 to 8 could look make us look very stupid. But obviously, I'm hoping that you have hit the jackpot again, Jack.
Oh, let's hope so. I'm due once. Fingers crossed. And then the 418 closed things off again. Another 5 furlong listed sprint here without draws, so there might not be much of an opinion here.
I thought them chucking in Tropical Storm was very interesting. I mean, a 3-year-old that time of year to try to go up his elders over sprint distances. And it's got some it did a good number on the clock here last August, didn't it?
It did, yes. Won at the Dante meeting, didn't it? Won very well.
Won the Roses Stakes last year, didn't it? By the 2 favourites. Probably about his best performance last year, wasn't it?
For a nice prep, I mean, this must be a good alternative to the favourites.
Yeah, Fav looks short, doesn't it, really?
The one thing to note this time about the reappearance run is that it was held up out the back, and really it's all its best performances, if you profile the best performances, all been when it's ridden prominently on the front end, which is where you want to be at York, basically, in a 5 furlong sprint. So could be interesting. That might have been a little bit of a sighter last time out when he was 6th of 11 in the Palace House.
Hold out for a low draw then in that case, and we can have a right go.
Yeah, it might be a little bit of a back to lay possibility there if you've got enough juice in the price for those of you who like a trade.
Indeed. Right, we'll move on to the Friday, and this is a race I reckon everyone's got loads to say about, the 210 Marygate. John, I reckon you're probably one of the only that might have an opinion here. Is there any you've seen so far that you like of these 2-year-olds?
Yeah, loads of them, actually. That being the problem, really. I can't remember the last time I had a bet in this race, to be honest. I think year on year it proves an absolute cunt of a race to solve. But it's usually a very good pointer towards different threads of form for the Queen Mary and the Albany. If you can take this race apart after it's been run and have a look at the threads of form, where they're leaving to, where horses have beaten these contenders and all the rest of it, you will get a better insight into the Queen Mary and Albany, and that's all I would say on that.
Key sighter, isn't it, for Ascot in a few weeks' time?
Very much so.
I just want to know who Spicy Marge was.
I've dipped a bit in the Spicy Marge for the odd cracker in the Spicy Marge, shall we say.
Nick, I'm going to avoid your note here because I know it's coming, so we'll move on. The 242, we've already had some mentions from both Nick and John in. So, Andy, any thoughts?
Deferring to my better colleagues, I did have 3 that I was interested in. Obviously, no draw, no real. Some of them aren't even jocked up, but there's 3 horses I certainly like for the future, if not today. One would be Tony Montana. I thought ran a very good race last time out, ran into an improving 3-year-old. He's not, I don't think there's any margin in the mark, but I think he'll run a decent race. Michael Belliard's had a very good start to the year. French Duke is certainly a horse I'm looking forward to this year. He's from the Roger Vegetable stable. Yeah. One down the bottom, Financier. I think this might just be a little bit too tasty for him, but if they can get him into a slightly easier race, a sort of 0 to 85. I think there's one a la our friend Ramazan earlier on that you should certainly be keeping an eye on for a handicap later on. Financier is certainly from the Easterby Yard, the Tim Easterby Yard, they must have found the right carrots, because I can't.
He's having 2-year-old winners. I don't know
I
what's
can't,
going
well,
on.
I was amazed when that's why, hence the carrots mentioned, because it must be, it's the best start to the season I think I can remember him having.
Yes, possibly a few changes at the training setup there, John.
They will have been,
Yes.
Competitive race, I could agree with the lads on the whole. Boring-ish. I mean, it's a price and it might not run, but thought City of Delight's been mega impressive the last twice. One better value than the margins have suggested, really, particularly at Epsom last time out, where kind of just sort of flew home, bit of trouble in running, only nudged up the £3. Ground might be a little bit on the lively side for it, and they haven't jocked it up. So I think after the race, Menuisier was talking about the Northern Dancer at Epsom, which probably looks a more viable target, but could take this in on the way.
That Stress Free was third to it last time out, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So got form lines.
And King's Code was fifth, actually. So there's a couple that are running earlier in the week, and that Jorvik Handicap. So if either of those run well, and he does run, there's a bit of a pointer there. Ground was pretty quick at Epsom last time out, Jack.
True. I think you know what he's like. Safe ground, kind of. Got to be safe. Got to be safe. We'll see if
keep slinging the water on.
Yeah, exactly that. No, good stuff. The 313 again. I've already tipped in this one, so I shall defer. Nick Davis isn't going to have an opinion unless he's going to surprise me. Andy and John, any views on the Michael Seeley?
I'm going to pass. So the floor's John's.
I thought it was between Consecrated and Gullier, and Happy to Rock Along with yours, Jack.
I thought, Consecrated did make a good impression, didn't it, on debut? Often does work out to be a pretty nice race, this. And I think despite the 1,000 being a little bit lukewarm, I think some of these kind of later developing fillies, we could have some nice ones on the ground later on this year, I would say. For the purpose of my bank balance, let's hope it's Gullier. 345, the Yorkshire Cup. I think there's a bit of a
sure piece of the meeting.
Yeah, apparently so, John. I mean, it doesn't feel like it anymore.
I mean, John gets to see the lovely Philippa again, doesn't he?
Yes, he loves her, doesn't he?
I
don't know about you chaps, but I think if Rebels Romance runs this, which by all accounts I'm told he does, as long as he stays this, he should thump these lot, shouldn't he?
Yeah,
well, he should do.
It's very strange though. 7 years old, it's the first sign you suddenly sort of go up to why they're going up there.
He's an old boy now. He's kind of been there and done that. So maybe they just want to take a chance and find out if they can get some legs out of him for kind of a staying career.
Has he run out of air miles?
Yeah, that could be it. That could be it. I don't know how you could. I guess the question mark is whether he runs, but I wouldn't have Sweet William shorter than him. I mean, he loves to find one too good.
There's some absolute twats running in this, isn't there? That's fair.
It's hard to make much of excitement for much, isn't it?
Rebels Romance just like wins races for fun. And you got these other things, I mean, they'd do anything barring dig a tunnel to get out of fucking winning. Jesus.
Continuous is gone, isn't it? That's completely gone. He won't run Hamish on the ground, I shouldn't think.
Nope.
Trawler man, you don't know what you're going to get.
Knock him the chestnut shit house.
Do you think everyone's given up training stayers whilst Kyprios is around? They just can't be asked. Could be it.
Yeah.
Well, if you can get that 3-1 with the Hills, looks too big on Rebels Romance. I mean, you wouldn't want to be back in Sweet William at 7-4, would you?
Absolutely not. Well, I've been down the shop today and I've done just that. So if you're listening, Billy Mountains, make sure you pay me out.
You just have to wonder what the hell's going on with Continuous, wouldn't you? Why they're persisting with the strength and depth that they've got. Why is he rocking up to these?
Why did they go down to 10 furlongs?
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, seem to have fried it potentially, haven't they? Really? I mean, he hasn't gone a yard since he won the Ledger, to be honest.
No, really.
No, sad state of affairs for the Yorkshire Cup. Trainers start working on training proper stayers with border seeing some of these.
Yeah, bring less twatty horses to York.
Yeah, exactly that.
They're all sold abroad, the stayers now, aren't they, though?
True.
This is quite a good illustration of where we're going wrong, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Yorkshire Cup should have been absolutely jam-packed with 4-year-olds that just fell short in the Ledger and what have you last year. And what have we got on the 4-year-old front? Filly and Tom Clover Dunkhead, really. Disappointing, to say the least.
It is indeed. And then we've got the lucky last on the telly, the 4:15, which is another sprint handicap with no draws and decks. I feel like there's not going to be much from anyone here. Certainly isn't from me.
Not from me, no.
No.
I thought there was an interesting one you might know about, Jack. You're with the South African man, Dylan Cooner, Just King High.
Oh yes, he's working the house down, Andy. He looks brilliant.
Leading him on a bit of biltong, are they?
He's a pretty lightly raced sort and has done well for connections who've done pretty well with Dylan. So yeah, if that gets a nice low draw, mark on to, I don't think he's ridden at all for Dylan. So it's a positive booking.
The other one that I had a small mark against was Acrisius, who was 2nd of 8 on reappearance run for the David Easterby.
John, that's the last thing we need, isn't it? That pair winning something at York.
It's one of them, that race, isn't it? You'll be sat there, you'll be reflecting on the weight, and you'll think, well, I've had 4 good winners. How the fuck didn't I have them all in the same lucky 15? Then you'll just go into default mode and chuck a few quid at 2 shows because it's sprint expert come shows, and then head for the car park to get some fish and chips on the way home.
John, you've summed it up brilliantly there, and I think that's all we can hope for this week. And so that is the Bar Stewards look through the Dante meeting. There'll be a few of us. Got Andy, John, Lee's there, so you'll be in the usual spot, I presume, chaps, on the champagne lawn.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can come over and say thanks for a few winners. But if we haven't backed any, all of you can fuck off.
If you come over and play, I'll don't fucking bother.
Excellent stuff. That's all from us. Enjoy York this week, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for now.